Hello, and welcome to episode 9 of Pure Light. My name is Eiley, and this episode is about the dangers of self-definition. Before we get into a story I have for you today, I just want you to take a moment and think about how you introduce yourself to others. So what would you say at a party? Or how would you fill in the blank after the words I am? We'll come back to that a little bit later. Right now, I want to share a story with you about how defining myself ultimately backfired on me in a way that was not helpful. A few years ago, I went backpacking. This was part of my leave of absence from my job when I was reevaluating my life. And I ended up traveling for the better part of a year. I was in Australia for about 6 months, and then I came back home for a little bit. And then I took off again to Southeast Asia. And while I was traveling, I was basically living out of a bag. Like, it was like a big backpack, but it wasn't a lot of stuff. I had a very limited amount of clothing with me and some toiletries, just really the basics to get by. And one of the things that I realized when I was traveling was how much stuff I had at home that I really didn't need. And a lot of it I didn't even use. So when I came back from traveling, it made me want to get rid of more stuff. And it was around then that I started reading about minimalism on some websites. It's funny because my brother had actually sent me a link to a site about minimalism a couple of years before. And I had at that point thought it was completely insane because I was like, why on earth would you want less? But at this point, I had a new perspective on it because I could see the value in having less from traveling. Because when you're traveling, it gets annoying to have a lot of stuff. And you're just like, I wish I had packed less. So anyway, when I discovered minimalism, I felt really excited about it and I decided to get rid of more stuff. And it's ironic too, because I had already been shedding layers of stuff for probably about 2 years before I even went traveling. And it felt really good to donate things and sell things that I wasn't going to use that were just taking up space. And as a result of all of this shedding of stuff, I started to think of myself as a minimalist. And some of my friends also started to think of me as a minimalist. And it was really great. I got rid of a lot of stuff and I was really happy until I started to feel guilty about buying anything beyond basic food and toiletries. Somehow in the back of my mind, the idea that I was a minimalist made me think that I shouldn't want or need anything at all. Even though minimalism is really not about deprivation, it's about conscious consumerism. So for example, I swim a couple of times a week and my bathing suit wears out every so often, so I have to replace it. And I felt guilty about buying a new bathing suit, even though I needed one, even though I was going to use it, and even though my old one was falling apart. And all of this was simply because I had the idea in my head that I should not need or want anything because I was a minimalist. So here's the thing. How you think about yourself determines and limits how you show up in the world. When you stop defining yourself, you're free to be who you are. Because then you don't have to make choices in the context of who you think you are or who you think you're supposed to be. You can actually make them based on your true desires. And according to yogic philosophy, you are what you desire. So the more you honor your desires, the more you follow your destiny. Defining yourself can ultimately create rules for you to follow. Rules that determine what's possible for you. So here I use the example, I'm a minimalist, because the rule that created for me was I can't buy anything, even if I need it, which isn't true. I ended up buying the bathing suit anyways, because I really did need it. You can't go swimming naked in public pools. But there are many other examples that I could have used here. So things like, I'm a Gemini, I'm an introvert, I'm a good girl, I'm responsible, I'm nice. If I define myself in those terms, all of those have different connotations to them that could potentially define what I allow myself to do. When an idea becomes part of your sense of self, it eliminates all other possibilities for how you show up in the world. Or it means that you feel conflicted about doing the thing that you want to do, like for me, buying that bathing suit. You can end up feeling conflicted about doing something that doesn't align with the ideas that you have about yourself, which means that you're eliminating possibilities for how you can show up in the world. So you're cut off from the infinite possibilities of the universe. You're only allowing yourself to express and choose the possibilities that aligned with what you've decided represents who you are. But really, to be the fullest expression of yourself, you need to give yourself permission to change and grow, and be whoever you need to be to make the highest decision for yourself in each moment. So if you are wondering if defining yourself is serving you or not, here are some questions that you can use to determine that for yourself. What are the terms that you use to define yourself? What are the expectations that come along with those terms? And how do those expectations align or not with what you really want? Whatever you put after the words I am are the most important words in the world, because they ultimately become part of your mental self-concept, which may or may not be serving you. If you have any insights you want to share from this episode, use the hashtag PureLightPodcast on Instagram or Twitter. And if you found this useful, please share it with a friend. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, may you be guided by your light.